Hello Ealing, Dickon Levinge here, author of A Month in the Life of Jackson Grimes. Some of you may have seen the short film which I made a few weeks ago that Ealing Library placed up on their YouTube and Facebook platforms, and they very kindly asked me to do a follow-up about life, work and writing under lockdown. I'm still under lockdown, still on the island of Alderney, not back in London, as the sign you've just seen may have implied. Although I am planning a return to the city in a couple of weeks' time. But until then, I shall be working and writing from here. So I'll just now tell you a bit about what I've been doing, what I'm planning to do, and perhaps read you another segment of A Month in the Life of Jackson Grimes. Okay, hope you stay tuned. I'm just walking back now from the little tourist train station back to try and get some morning work done. In the previous film, I said that if I didn't walk away from this lockdown without at least the bones of a new novel, then I'd be terribly disappointed in myself. And the good news is I'm not terribly disappointed in myself. The bad news is I'm not exactly thrilled, but I suppose that's always the way when you're anxious to get on and desperately get into writing a new piece. So basically, I don't have as much as I thought I'd have, but what I've got I think is pretty good. So yeah, I'll be getting on with that now for the next 2 weeks until I'm back in London, and then I'll basically be getting on with it again, even further. So now I'm going to go back inside, show you a bit more of what I've been up to, which is, apart from the writing, doing a fair amount of reading, catching up on National Geographics, and just gathering food for thought, fodder for stories. Okay, here we are back inside. I've just quickly commandeered my mum's office for this particular segment because I mentioned the National Geographics, and as you can see, that's where we keep them, going back all the way to 1974, I think. Anyway, I always go through them when I'm back here visiting because I get huge inspiration out of them, and some great information. I'm reading one here about cities at the moment because I'm writing another book about London, and just fascinating to get another perspective on cities and how they work, and the social constructs involved. Also reading a book which a friend of mine gave me for Christmas by Ian Banks called Raw Spirit, which is best summed up by one of the critics on the back cover from this Independent on Sunday, who describes it as a travelogue, social commentary and drinking guide. Yeah, during the lockdown period, I suspect it's the latter part of that description which has become most important to all of us. No fiction at the moment because I'm writing, and when I'm writing, I don't tend to read much fiction because it just rubs off on me, and I like to be in my own fictional world when I'm creating. But it isn't all about just the writing, it's also about getting people to read the book, isn't it? Because there's no point in writing a book unless it gets to an audience. So I've also been spending a not insignificant amount of time trying to sell it and market it. So we shall go back upstairs to my little desk, and I'll tell you a bit about that. So here I am, back in front of my little desk, where, as they say, the magic happens, or at least the hard work takes place. And as I said downstairs, it's not just about writing, it's about selling and marketing. During the lockdown, of course, with no libraries open, no bookshops open, it's all been about the internet. My friend here behind me, my computer, has been everything, and that meant using it doing a couple of radio interviews. I did a Kindle countdown sale last month, which was fairly successful. Got me quite high up there in the rankings, certainly in the dark humorous section for a good few days. And yeah, and of course making films such as this to try and entice you wonderful people to either take my book out from the library when the libraries reopen, which hopefully will be in a matter of weeks as opposed to a matter of months, or even buy a copy should you be feeling generous. With that in mind, I think I'll end by reading you another short section from A Month in the Life of Jackson Grimes. Okay, for those of you who didn't see the previous quarantine film I made and who haven't read the book, just a quick word about Jackson Grimes. Jackson Grimes is this larger-than-life bombastic character who was on a path of self-destruction, and he meets this woman Julia at the precise moment she has a catastrophic accident. On top of that, it's basically a satirical comedy about a ridiculous man and his ridiculous views on our ridiculous world. And he's also a man who, wherever he goes, trouble seems to follow, which is highlighted, I hope, in the short passage which I shall read you now. Right. He's just left the hospital, having visited Julia for the first time, and he's trying to work out exactly how he feels about her and why he feels the way he feels about her. He reached the centre of Westminster Bridge and looked down at the river traffic, particularly busy during Thames's slack water, and paused to watch a flotilla of brightly coloured, spear-shaped yachts approaching as they cut their way towards the estuary. He'd read about them in the same paper the article about Julia had appeared. They were on their way to Limehouse Basin to begin a year-long round-the-world race. Brave folk, he thought. And the word struck a chord in his head. Brave. Perhaps that was the quality he saw in Julia that was so foreign to his own pitiful nature. Jackson wondered if the violinist's rage had been that little bit stronger, if he had launched his instrument just a few inches further out and, rather than Julia, caught Jackson full in the face. Would he now show such stoicism and courage? Of course not, Jackson thought, adding aloud, ridiculous notion, Grimes. Then again, perhaps bravery had nothing to do with Julia's apparent fortitude. Perhaps she was still in shock, under medication, and sometime in the near or even distant future, it would suddenly hit her, like a second, even more vicious blow. Perhaps, rather than a tower of strength, she was merely a ticking clock. The yachts neared the bridge, one of them pulling ahead as the skipper raised the mainsail to its maximum height, a flapping sheet tattooed with a collage of corporate logos. Then the boat turned slightly, and the canvas bellowed, and she lunged forward. As she glided beneath Jackson, a yachtsman standing near the bow, head to toe in brand new, bright yellow oilskins, looked up. Jackson, waving both his arms, shouted, "Ahoy, yachtsman! Lovely day for the sea, me hearty!" The yachtsman grinned and waved back, letting go of the rigging and tumbling overboard. "Oh, shit," Jackson mumbled. The yachtsman's arm flailed as he desperately tried to reach the tethered lifebelt that the skipper had managed to deploy while bringing the vessel back into the wind and attempting to drop the mainsail. Bravery suddenly becoming idiocy and panic, Jackson thought, that's more like it. And there we are. Thank you very much for watching, and stay well, stay safe, and see you soon.